I know that you understand this. When like-minded, good people get together, man, all kinds of sparks happen. All kinds of great things happen. And it's that creativity that is going to bring each of us to the solution where we're standing right where we are and we can do that solution, and it's going to make a difference, like a ripple effect out.
Welcome to Better Than Podcast. Hello, my guest today is Debra Staub, and I wanted to bring her in to talk to all of us because sometimes our purpose is a role of support, helping other people get the things accomplished that they want to get accomplished to make the world a better place. There are people with skills who are very aligned with the idea of supporting the individual and making sure that everyone has the opportunities that they need and the knowledge that they need to accomplish the things that they want in their lives. And Debra Staub is one of those people who are here to support you while you help us usher in a new era on this planet. She is kind, she is empathetic, and she is very, very knowledgeable. So please welcome a conversation with Debra Staub, my friend. I'd like to hear more about you and your upbringing. What are some of the relevant things to Debra that have kind of been formative in you being the person that you are today? I just hop right into it.
Yes. Well, first I was born. There was a celebration. I think there might have been champagne. And then I don't remember things for a long time until I was about 3.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay. So in the Midwest, and it was back in the 60s. So I came to understand later, after living in a lot of different places, that where I grew up was considered really conservative. But everyone was always really neighborly, and I grew up with a lot of people always thinking about what they could do for other people, and I didn't realize that until I moved away, and some of the places I lived was not like that.
Right. Huh. So yeah, you didn't know exactly what was there until you left, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. But I have a sister, and we're very close in age, and I'm the oldest. And so I really felt like it was me and my sister against the world, because my parents had divorced when I was 2, and with a single mom who really didn't have a lot of resources, but thank goodness she had family. Her parents were there, and then my father's parents. Well, I became close to both sets of parents, because actually my grandparents became kind of like my surrogate mother and my surrogate father. So I really think that I have a bunch of parents, including my grandparents, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it does. And it's interesting that you said you felt like it was really you and your sister against the world. Because I know from being like removed for long periods of time from my parents that it kind of created like a chasm, in my psyche a little bit, because you're not part of a family unit anymore. It is just you, you're not with your people anymore. And so,
right.
Yeah. How did your sister deal with that?
Well, we had a crazy upbringing. I'll just say that. And it's not until much later into my older life that I realized that all of those things that I considered terrible really were the things that, of course, shaped me into who I am. So my mother ended up remarrying an alcoholic. And so my sister and I are, oh gosh, probably 6. Like I was in kindergarten, I think, when they got married. And I really don't ever remember my father, because I think I was like 2 years old when they got a divorce. So I really don't remember any of that. I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh, I can't. It, it's like somebody else, but I know that was my life because I saw the pictures. So anyway, but what I do remember is her marrying this alcoholic, and it was very well. As a child, I didn't have anything to compare it to, so I grew up thinking that was normal. There was a lot of chaotic stuff going on. I felt like we never really knew what was going to go on. Like any kind of chaos could break out at any given time, and
Like
so
just
it kept.
drunken tantrums or
Yes, and
violence.
violence with my mother. Like I do remember one time she was cooking something, and then he just took whatever it was. I think it was, remember, you know what succotash is? 3 vegetables together, corn, peas, and carrots or something. So he just took the whole pan and he just like threw it on the floor. And so that's all I remember. So there were things like that happened, and I'm sure that he was doing stuff behind closed doors to her. And so when I was in the 5th grade, that's when she finally was able to leave him. So that was a long time, kindergarten to 5th grade. That was a long time. So those are my formative years, and that's what I grew up with. And I think the positive part about that is I'm able to deal with a lot of chaos maybe longer than most people would. But then again, on the flip side, I could stay too long, and that's not good either. So that's one of the big lessons I had to learn out of that.
And how much time did you spend with your grandparents? I mean, was it years in a stretch or?
Well, we would always go over to their house on the weekends when he would give permission that we could go over there. So, it was like when we got to go over to my grandparents' house, everything was fine there. It was just the opposite of the chaos. Everything was wonderful, and, it was just perfect. So my sister and I always felt like we hated to leave there, like we didn't want to go back home. So I also remember that feeling of, no, we don't want to go home. And then, as a grown up, I can just imagine how that would feel, to my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, knowing that all that was going on, and
just
so
heartbreaking, I'm sure.
Yeah. And they tried to go through some legal resources to get us removed, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Yeah. What, so, and this was during the 60s and 70s, right? So were you observing what was happening in the world at that time, or were you pretty sheltered from that stuff in what was happening in the country, what was happening overseas, the wars and things?
I would say that we were sheltered. Yeah, we were sheltered. I remember we were doing our laundry at a laundromat, and the guy, Neil Armstrong, landed on the moon. I remember that was on TV. And they didn't have TVs in laundromats back then, believe it or not, but there was a store next to the laundromat that sold TVs. And so I remember, that's where I ended up seeing it. And they were black and white TVs. They weren't colored TVs, and they didn't have a remote control. They had to like turn a channel.
So, okay.
Sheltered, yes. History of the world, sheltered. The only thing that I got about the history was from school.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come to realize that was a not the complete story. That was just the narrative that the school was teaching us. So, So I thought the world was wonderful. Like, Columbus sailed over in, what was it, 1492? Like everything was a little poem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, hey, here's this piece of propaganda, and we're going to make it rhyme so it's more fun for you to absorb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and look what it did. It sticks in your head. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm still, all these years able to remember that stupid tidbit of information that is useless, right?
Mm-hmm. But so you made it through that childhood. And what did you do? Did you go off to college? Did you run around like a crazy person? Was there freedom for a while? Did you get married? What did you do?
Well, I went into full mode rebellion. Because we were sheltered and, because I saw all the different things that my mom went through, and I'm sure there's a bunch of psychological stuff in here too. So I just went the opposite end. I just, started taking all kinds of, risks and parties, and I just didn't give a crap about anything, nothing at all. I was just going to do whatever I wanted to do. And, I was 13, not really a good age to be, doing whatever you want to do. And my sister was the same way. So we would go out together, and so it was my job, just kind of make sure that she stayed okay. So that was an interesting dynamic. And she's the opposite these days. She's a total opposite of that. Well, so am I, but she's even more so. And so I often think back about that. Wow, have things changed? But yeah, it was just it was very hard. I got into trouble with the police. I spent, some time, just, what do they call it? Detention hall. They had a place where, because I didn't go to school one day, the police came over and I didn't know I shouldn't open the door. And so I got hauled away for truancy. And so no one came and picked me up. I just stayed down there the whole day, the whole night. Not a fun place at all. And I'm sure that was the message they wanted me to get. So, but the message I got was, don't answer the door to the police. That's the message I got.
Mm-hmm. Good things are not going to happen.
No.
Wow.
So after I went through that, then and then I dropped out of high school when I was in the 10th grade. And then my aunt and uncle, my grandparents talked me back into, going to summer school and getting back in school so I could get my degree. And so at that point, I think I just turned things around. So I would have been 16, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to get back into school, and so I made really good grades, because my end game was, to get out of school, because I did not like high school. I did not like high school at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew what I needed to do to get out, and so I did. And then I ended up moving to New Orleans. Well, let's see. No, I worked for a couple of years, and then my dad asked me if I'd like to go to college and move from Missouri to New Orleans, and so I did. So
Is that
was
your stepdad or?
No, that's my real dad.
Your real
My
dad.
real dad.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he was still in the picture. You still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. He was in the picture every summer. We would go down, and because he didn't live there, he had moved away, and so every summer my grandparents would make sure that we got down there and we would visit him, and there again it was like, oh no, we don't want to go back. We want to stay here. Because he lived, right on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. Like, it was just incredible.
Yeah. What do you think?
The sound of the ocean.
Why do you think that he didn't keep you? Do you think it was like the time that you guys were in, like dads just weren't single dads, or do you think? What do you think that was?
I think yes, some of that was that. And then his jobs, he was like an independent contractor, so he would work at different companies like Boeing, and he was an aerospace engineer, so he would move around a lot. He would have a contract for, I don't know, a year or so, and then that work would be up, and then he would move. So I think that was some of it too.
Yeah, he didn't want you guys being like latchkey kids with no grown up,
right,
or to have to move you around all the time.
Right.
So he was probably, in his mind, that was better for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have no ill feelings,
Mm-hmm.
about that. I understood that. I never felt, like he had abandoned us or anything like that, because we would see him, and then he would come back up for Christmas, and so there was always times, together. It's just that we didn't live with him.
Right. Was
So
he always kind to you?
yes, yes, he was. He was definitely into culture, and I remember, I think that's why I really love to try new foods, because even at a young age he would buy my sister and I like matching dresses, and then he would take us out to a really beautiful fancy restaurant, and it was, like I said, it was the total opposite of what happened when we went back home. We had canned succotash and and didn't
Uh-huh.
eat out. And
Right.
then, with my father, it was just everything the opposite of that. So I grew up seeing two totally different ways of life.
That's what I
And
was gonna say. Like especially for a young girl, um, the male role models in her life, for you to see the example of what you wouldn't want and then the example of what you would want in your life, and seeing your mother make that choice, that must have had a pretty profound effect on you.
it did, because to this day, it's instilled in me to help, um, like, underdog people, and I hate to use that word, but like, well, basically, it's to help someone get in touch with their voice, with what they're really feeling, and then if they need help, to strategize with them and to help them find steps that are appropriate in their given situation, to get out, or to get what they want to do. So
Well,
I can definitely see that.
that's interesting. Why don't in your words, because I know what you do for a living, but in your words, what do you, well, first let me put it like this. Do you believe that everyone has a purpose?
I do.
And
Yes.
what do you think your purpose is?
My purpose is to find people that are looking for answers to help them in their situation. And right now, I focus on helping businesses, like small business owners and entrepreneurs. But we all know that let's just say, an entrepreneur is a person too. So when I help someone become an entrepreneur, or help them grow their business, or give them strategy with that, it really it really is also helping them with their mindset that they come to the table with. And so I call it business, helping business owners, but they're people and they happen to run businesses.
Mhm.
So I get to help in a variety of different ways, but mostly I think it boils down to mindset, and being able to understand what their goals are, and then I formulate a way to help them get that.
And why is that important to you? Because I mean, putting that in the context of your life's purpose, like to help people achieve the things that they're trying to achieve, what that's a a pretty noble thing to dedicate a career to. So I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, what does that like internal motivation feel like to you? Like, what is um the depth of importance that you put on your work? What is that meaning to you?
I think it goes back to growing up. I felt powerless, and like everything was determined by my circumstances, and there wasn't any, nobody was coming to my rescue, and and so I knew that if there were just people that could help me and like get me out of that situation, that everything would be okay. But that never happened. That never happened, until I grew up, and then learned how to take care of it myself. So I really think that really is a human dynamic, not just in my particular case, but in all of our cases, as human beings. we're social, and and based on what we're looking to do in our life, you have to have, well, it always helps to have someone to be able to help you with that. Um, Maybe there's a pathway that could save you time and grief and situations that are drama filled. That so if I can just alleviate any of that for anybody and just show them a more clear path, because I've been there, done that, then that's what my purpose is.
And you don't just have like this knowledge and these skills because you've been through it, but like you enjoy, like you nerd out finding ways that people can get, finding loopholes for people, finding better ways of doing things for people, better ways of running businesses. Like you really enjoy finding these tools to bring to people. How do you how do you go about, like, are you taking courses, or is it just with interactions and different people and their skills, learning from the skills of other people and passing that on? How do you because you're so knowledgeable and about a lot of different subjects having to do with business, and I think that to me that's valuable because it's really intimidating. As um, our friend Matt Raymer, he calls me the idea guy. I'm the idea guy, but I'm not the technical guy. I'm not the business guy, and so the idea of starting a business is very intimidating for somebody who doesn't have that background. And so I'm curious as to how you go about finding that knowledge and interpreting it for other people.
Well, so I do all of that. I continually take classes. I find people who are good at what I want to be good at, and then I figure out a way, if they've got a class to take, if they've I got some way that I could glean the information from them, and so I just get it from a lot of sources. Um, but the reason why I first started this is because I started my own business a long time ago, and if it wasn't because of a mentor that I had, I would not have known how to do it, because I remember telling her, I'm like, where do you even start? What do you do? And at that point, when I met her, I knew nothing about financial literacy. I knew nothing about starting a business. I absolutely knew nothing about the mindset, the success mindset that you really need to have. I knew nothing about reframing a situation and turning it into what I need. I knew nothing. I basically knew nothing when the universe plopped her into my life on purpose. and I was so grateful for the education that I learned from her over the course of like 3 years or something, that I said to myself that I really would love to pay this forward. I've got this knowledge. I know other people, I'm not the only one that doesn't have this knowledge. So as a way that I could express my gratitude for what she imparted to me, I wanted to pay that forward. So that's how it started.
And a pay it forward mentality is really, really valuable in these days that we're living in.
Yes.
What do you, I guess, how do you, from your perspective, see the world that we're in today? Whatever comes to mind, whatever that looks like to you.
Right. Well, I because I work with entrepreneurs and liberty-minded people, I really see that there is a fight for our ability to be free, to be liberty-minded, to be able to do what we would like to do, to be able to be creative, to be able to be an entrepreneur. All of those things are we're in like a fight right now for that. Look at all the censoring that's gone on the social media platforms. Um, a right and the ability to be able to have a different opinion than other people's is like, we've taken that for granted, that we can do that. And so now we're seeing over the last year and a half, especially on the social media platforms, like I mentioned, that is just, those people are being deplatformed. Oh, well, we don't like what you're saying. Well, goodbye. like, so no one's going to find that information out there. So now I've really had to up my game. And, because I know a lot of people who know a lot of information, and I myself know a lot of information, I'm like, well, how can I help more people? And how can I help the people who, are also sharing and trying to help the world? How can we up our game and be even better and more proficient at that? That's what I think about all the time.
What are some of the
How
things?
can we do it?
Yeah, I agree with you. What are some of the things that you're really excited about that you're seeing? Are you seeing a lot of new solutions? What are the things that kind of give you hope that we're not maybe going down a dark path?
I see people starting to question different scenarios that are given to them. I see a lot more people starting their own businesses, which is great because, back when, let's just say a year ago, and when this pandemic started, I had no idea what was going to happen, with my business, with my clients that I had. And so what I came to realize is everyone had a lot of questions. They had a lot more questions. And so I was thrown into a situation where we needed to strategize and help pivot different types of businesses. Like I had people in the restaurant industry. Well, that whole industry has changed. And so there's different ways to still be a restaurant, but they're so different than they were a couple of years ago. So being able to strategize in any given industry, how they could be successful given the parameters and the restrictions they were having to deal with, became one of the big focuses that I was doing. And then alongside with that, I realized that there were a lot of people wanting to start their own business because they realized, in their job that they weren't considered essential. So then they didn't have a paycheck. And to be able to have another entity, just take away your ability to make a living, I mean, that was just crazy. It's totally crazy to me. And I was happy to find that it was crazy to other people too. So I've been able to help a lot of people, just find solutions, different solutions. And these solutions have never been thought about before, right? I mean, this is our first pandemic that I've ever been involved in. And so it's really been fun to be able to strategize and help people, because my bottom line is how can we still maintain our creativity and be entrepreneurs? That's the whole thing. So
What if someone were to come to you and say, I want to start my own business, I want to be my own boss, I know that that's how I want to live my life, but I have no idea what type of business I should even be in. What advice would you give to somebody in that position? They know what the goal is, but they're not sure how they're going to get there. And I bumped my microphone.
Right. Well, I don't give them advice. I listen to what they talk about. So, I'll spend, time, usually it's about an hour, just getting some history and just hearing them, what they're thinking they want to do. And during that time, ideas will come out. And a lot of times they don't even realize that they're ideas, but I've been doing this for so long that, I recognize them as ideas. And so I just make note of those. And, based on what they want to do, then, we just work towards formulating a plan of what they're thinking that they want to do. So I never come in and tell somebody what to do. I'm really there to listen and to strategize with them about what they're thinking, about what they're thinking. And people are always thinking something. They're always thinking something, and they'll always give me clues as to where to take the conversation to help them.
So you don't find that people actually don't know where to start. There's somewhere in them is a seed of something that just has to have some light shown on it. Would you say that's accurate?
Right. Their ideas are just like a few questions away. And so to be able to facilitate those questions to them, that's when that information is pulled out. Heck, I know when I was back in that situation too, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and it was a series of questions, from my mentor. And so questions are really the magic sauce of life. Questions. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I was having a conversation a few days ago, and um, that's kind of what it came around to. Like, until we start to question ourselves and ask ourselves, what we really think about something or how we really feel about something, we don't really know truly who we are. So how can you know what you're supposed to be doing, what your purpose in life is, unless you start to question yourself and really take
Right.
stock of what you think, what you feel, what's important to you. And then
Right.
also, one of the things that you do that I think is really wonderful is you help people take stock of their resources. What do they have, at their disposal, them just being who they are? What are the resources that they have? Who are the people that they know? That can be really helpful, because I don't think that a lot of people, especially um, with us not being, um, by design of the society that we live in, we're not really encouraged to look at ourselves as having innate resources. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we're taught to externalize, that we need to outsource everything to other people, and in talking with you, one of the
Right.
conversations that we had really helped me realize, like, um, how many things I have working to my advantage that I hadn't really recognized before.
Right. And that's how us wonderful humans are. Like, we have all these things inside of us, and sometimes we're just, well, usually we're just too close to ourselves to be able, because we really weren't taught how to dig in there and question that. And because we are so social, it's a great dynamic when you can find people that you trust, and who have a record of success in front of them, to be able to connect with those type of people. And because we have unlimited potential, so anything anybody tells me they want to do, well, I know I can figure out how to help them do it.
Mm-hmm. That's
and and
beautiful.
and that's very exciting. That's very exciting, because in my perfect world, everyone's an entrepreneur. Big brother doesn't, have, we don't even know what that term means anymore. And we're off doing what we need to do to make, to enjoy this world, because this world is meant to be enjoyed. There's so many wonderful people to meet. There's so many wonderful ideas to explore and to design. Just imagine if we were free to do all that 100% of the time.
And what's really
So
amazing about human beings is that, like, there are so many people out there who just want to help other people, like,
yes,
whatever they can do to support and help grow other people's ideas and ambitions. Like, there's just people out there who want to help others do that.
right.
And you're in quite a few of those communities too. Can you talk about that, like the quality of people that you come across and their willingness to help humanity? Because you get to the privilege of talking with some really compassionate, wonderful people.
I agree, and we know a lot of the same people. And so I joined this group called Autonomy, and it's put on by a husband and wife, Richard and Lisa Grove. And so the whole premise of this was to connect entrepreneurs, creative people together to develop their skills, so we could share those skills with other people who understand helping and understand the world and understand, that barter back and forth of, you give value and the other person gives value, and we're here to be a resource to everyone. You just need to make sure you're in the right group where everybody feels that way. And so I connected in with this group, and that is their main premise. Everyone's vetted, and so, for a good part of the process of getting to a person that you can trust, I knew that the people inside this group were some high caliber people. But like I tell people to do, don't take anything for face value. Go find it out for yourself. so I was able to meet a lot of people in the group, and so I met a lot of people that and a lot of these people just bring to entrepreneurism their specific skill, and they're great at what they do. They're very wonderful at what they do, because I can do, my thing, and they can do their thing, and you could do your thing. But what about if we were all connected into a community where, I share what I do with you because you needed it or you were asking for it. And then, you also need something else, but I don't do it. But then I know someone else who does it. So I connect you guys. So see, that's how I feel the world, should work. And that's how it's working in my life. I would just like to make that work for the people who also are looking for that type of thing too.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that there are these communities of people who recognize the value in collaboration, right?
Right.
And interconnected support. I'm going to help you with your project because it's really valuable, and I know that because I helped you, you're going to help me with my project because you believe in my project too.
Right. And that's what I had always looked for. That's what I had always looked for. Now, with the founders of that group, I've known them since 2008, so that's been a little while. So I've known them, and then there's also a smaller group of people that I mastermind with, and I've been training with them for probably since 2009. So these are long-lasting relationships because I got so much value from him. Like I'm not the person I am today without these experiences and the mentor and the education that I've received from being around like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you understand this. When like-minded good people get together, man, all kinds of sparks happen, all kinds of great things happen. And it's that creativity that is going to bring each of us to the solution where we're standing right where we are and we can do that solution, and it's going to make a difference, like a ripple effect out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up masterminds because until I read, what was it from? Was it Napoleon Hill that came up with masterminds?
yeah.
Until I'd heard that concept, like it seems great and stuff, but I always had the context of it as like a think tank, like a group of politically minded people getting together and creating agendas, but then
Right.
But then I realized, oh, well, the board of a corporation is a mastermind, and people
Yes.
who get together on the weekends and play Pokemon to get that's a mastermind. Like you can
Right.
have a mastermind for anything that you want. And since my brain kind of opened up to that concept of having two or more minds together working toward the same goal, and now I've had the opportunity to become part of several different masterminds, a crypto mastermind and a business mastermind, and you know what I mean. And I don't think that people really understand the simplicity and the accessibility of that. You could gather people in your own community around a common goal and just get to work. It's pretty incredible how effective you can be.
Right. The first time I had heard of mastermind, I thought it wasn't for me either, that was something like high-powered people did, and I never considered myself, I considered myself of lesser caliber, so I totally wrote off mastermind. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a fun thing. Too bad, like I don't qualify for it. That was my internal thought. That was my internal, soundtrack. And so when I realized that I was very qualified for it, that it was really just people getting together and we're meant to collaborate together naturally. That's just how we are. That's what it is. Then I'm like, oh, well, I want to be in some masterminds. So when I finally got to that point, and the first group that I'm with, that smaller group of people, they talked about it. I'm like, heck yes, I want to do it. Yes. So there have been many great things that have come out of that. Many great things. So I would highly recommend, if anyone has a group of people that they like, trust, and they want to do a project together, to put two or more minds together.
So
who knows what you'll come up with.
That's exactly right. Who knows what you'll come up with? That's the magic of it.
Yeah.
And again, like the time that we're in, I think calls for it, encourages people toward that collaboration. What do you like? So we talked about, where we are now with, censorship and, this, I just call it like this ridiculous state of being that we're kind of forced to live in. It's just like the whole thing to me is really ridiculous. Where do you see us going? I guess like there's two ways you could take that though. Like, where do you see us going if things don't change, if more and more people don't start to become more independent minded, more collaboration minded? And where do you see us going if we do embrace that?
Well, if we don't stick up for our rights at this point, for our freedom, there won't be any entrepreneurs. So this whole field, like your business, you're not going to be able to have a business. I'm not going to be able to have my business. No one's going to be able to own personal property. That's in their goals, to get away from anybody even being able to own a house. Now, how wonderful would that be? I'm being sarcastic.
But who is they? I agree with you. But who do you think that they is in this scenario?
Well, there's a small group of people who don't have any problem with money or funds. They've got plans that they've had written down for many centuries, and they're very adept and strong and intelligent, and they never give up. And so these plans have been, laid out there because they, and that would be a whole nother podcast to be able to answer that question. But it's a selfish, non-helping strategy, just to have people around that only they decide to be around. So if they don't like that group, if they don't, like that thinking, they don't want those people around anymore. They only want their group around. And I'm a human being. I have every right to be on this planet too. And no one gets to, call the shots on what I do, what I think, and get to the point where they don't want me around. So I will fight to my dying breath, as I draw my land, and I have drawn my line in the sand, about, I would rather, what's the saying? Don't be down on your knees. Like, I'd rather die standing up than being down on my knees. Like, not, I don't know what that is, but
I don't know that particular quote, but I definitely understand the sentiment that you're saying, that you're speaking to. Like, the hill that I'm willing to die on is that, I'm not going to stop until every single person on the planet understands the value of human life. Like, I will not stop,
Yes.
So I definitely understand.
That is it. The human life. So human life, you are a human. I'm a human. I don't, everyone has this is all of our planet. So no one gets to call the shot and tell other people what to do.
Yeah. No one is more important than anyone else,
Right. So I see it could be very devastating. Just think back, in Russia with there's a book called Gulag
Archipelago.
Yes. If you want to know, what it could turn into, that's a good book. Start getting into that and understanding that. But it doesn't have to be that way. And we're at a point now where there's a fork in the road. So, which way is it going to be? There's a lot of people out there who don't even have these conversations and who are clueless about what you and I and your audience are talking about. I hope those people come to an understanding. I do feel in some regards that they're going to be an impediment to me keeping my freedom. And I'm not very excited about that impediment out there.
Right. Yeah. The ignorance of people not realizing what's happening is, it's just, one of many nails in the coffin of human freedom,
Right, right, right. So what I do is, I have what my world looks like. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's helping each other. Everybody's able to take their ideas and put those ideas into action. They're being able to connect with other people who help in a variety of different ways. And that's how I see the world. And so that's where I live. I understand the other worlds out there. And I pop out into that world because I have to know what they're doing. But I really stay into this world, and every day I try to have something that I'm doing that's resourceful to help maintain our freedom. And I really feel that entrepreneurs are the way that we do that, entrepreneurship and creativity. So that's why I'm stuck in this field for life.
That's fabulous. I think that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. This is a question that I'm thinking about adding, because I only have 3 questions that I ask people, really. Where did you come from? How did you get to be the person that you are? How do you see the world today? How do you see the world, in the future? But also,
great questions, by the way.
Well, thank you. I figure there's just a lot of room in those questions, but how do you feel about retirement? Do you see yourself, how do you see yourself at an old age? Like, what is your hopeful surroundings? Do you plan to ever quit working, or do you feel like that's something that you could never do? How do you see yourself, when you're on the way out,
Right, right. So retirement, I never fully understood that work. Maybe I understand it in the context of if you are an employee and you work for a company and you're trying to get to age 67, I believe it is now for my age, in order to get Social Security, and you can quit that job. That's how I think that word used to fit in. But things have changed. That whole landscape, has changed. So when you're speaking about being an employee, unfortunately, what I see is a lot of people haven't had very good financial education. So they have to work. They have to work until, past that age of 67 or whatever, just to be able to maintain. That's sad. That's sad. Retirement, to me, I don't ever divide my life into my life and then my work life. It's all one thing. It's all one thing. So that's why I have trouble even with that word retirement. I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing and until I'm not doing it any longer.
That's exactly how I feel about it. Like, this work is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life and the most fulfilling thing. And why would I ever want that to end?
Right.
And
Right.
And
right.
that makes me want so much for other people to have self-employment, to have their own creative projects, things that they don't even consider to be work. They're just enjoyable and fulfilling. And, I'll stop when I die, like
Right.
to have something that they care about that much in their lives. I think it's so important. So that answer was perfect. I love it.
Right. Right. And someone else had asked me, what I do. And so basically the bottom line, what I do is I make friends. I make friends throughout the world. Now that, we've got the internet, you can just be, I can have a friend in another country and I can communicate and talk to them through the medium that we're doing. And so what I do is I make friends. I see if there's any type of way that I could possibly bring resources to them that they're looking for, and that involves a conversation. And then we go from there, because there's also wonderful people who aren't entrepreneurs, and that's okay. So, for for companies that have integrity, I'm all for, because I'm not going to. So we have, our will to do whatever we want to do. So I just enjoy being an entrepreneur. There's some people I talk to who that's too scary for them and they don't want to do that. And I'm still friends with them too. I just, I come at it from a different, source. So that's okay. But yeah, I make friends and I see if there's something that I know, some information I might be able to share with them. If it's not me, then I know a lot of people, and I like introduce people to solutions. So that's what I do.
Perhaps I might ask you to come on and give the folks a history lesson sometime. Would you be up to that? About whatever you wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Because I think that I tend, when I talk about history, I tend to get a little ranty because I get mad. I get very mad and then I just start yelling. So it would be awesome to be able to have a conversation with somebody to keep me on track and keep me mellow.
You sound a lot like me. It's like I'm only able to have conversations more politely now because I've done the opposite. I'm a leader, and I grew up, understanding that you just have to. This is what I learned: tell people what to do. You've got to like strong arm them, just tell them what to do. Well, that stopped me from being helpful to the world for many, 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 many years.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get those years back, but you just start where you are and you go forward. So yeah, there's some ways that you can discern, like a bullshit detector.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call it. It's a bullshit detector. So there's a lot of bullshit to detect these days.
Yeah, that's true. And it's amazing how all of the bullshit just tends to all tie together too. Isn't that interesting? It's so interesting.
Well, it's a plan. And so like how we promote, entrepreneurs need to have a plan of success. They're no different. They've got their business plan. They have their action items that they need to be, taken care of. So the principle of getting things done and to reach inside of you and whatever your passion is to make that flourish, it's a principle that works whether you have good intent or whether you have ill intent.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
But I think that they are excellent long distance runners. Like you said,
Excellent.
They have these agendas that have been in place for hundreds and hundreds of years, and
yes.
they carry them out. Sometimes they have to be a little bit agile in their thinking if things don't go the way that they had planned or whatever. But for the most part, they've got a long head start on us. What I love and what I don't think that they have considered is that the rest of humanity are excellent sprinters. We are excellent sprinters, and we can come up with solutions like on a dime.
Right. You can't program everybody.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Right. And so they do. I think they understand that. Mm-hmm. They're going for the sheer numbers, right? So are you familiar with the tipping point? So once a certain
critical mass,
critical mass is met, and so they're just hoping that critical mass of unthinkers is going to keep on growing, and bless their business plan. It sure has been able to grow at a rapid rate, just within this last generation. Very, very sad, but I can also say that I've also been meeting, I call them kids, but 20, 25-year-olds that totally understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. Thank God. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, my daughter, she's 19, and actually all of the young kids that I know, they've just got no interest in these people or their agendas. All they want to do is grow gardens and learn how to knit and maybe raise bunnies and bees.
Bunnies and bees.
Yeah, they have so little interest in all of the shenanigans going on in the world that I think that in maybe the best sense, they're more woke than any of us, and I think that that lack of attention that they're willing to give the people who think that they control everything, that lack of attention that they're getting from these younger generations is really going to be part of what brings them down in the long run. They've
Right.
they've just become so nefarious that people just have no interest anymore. They don't want to fight
Right.
with it. They don't want to fight against it. They just want to go
Right.
about their business.
Right. Well, I have a theory about that.
Yes,
So
tell me.
being neutral is taking a stand. So there's a yes, there's a no, and there's being neutral. And a lot of people think that if they're neutral, that they're not really making a decision, but actually you are. You are being able to make. And just what I've seen since 9/11 happened, because I am into law and all that kind of stuff. There were different acts that can be presented into a population when there's an emergency declared for a country. And see, it's during those times where, I mean, we're still dealing in that system of law. The Patriot Act, that's what I'm talking about. That Patriot Act came through and it has fucked us up so bad. And now with what they're doing with the pandemic, fuck level number 2, excuse my
Mhm.
language. And so when you don't know what your opponent's doing, like every person who understands tactics, you have to understand what the other side's doing. You just
Mhm.
have to. So I love bunnies and I love bees and I love all that kind of stuff, and I do that too. But I also understand that they're just counting on people, not wanting to really look at the other side, because it's not very
Mhm.
pretty to look at.
Mhm.
It's not very pretty to look at.
But there's another really powerful aspect to that type of mentality when you don't want to participate with something and you begin to participate in things that you want, to see, that you want to dominate your life. There's something beautiful that happens, that as you draw your attention away from something, you're also taking your power with it, and you're placing that power on what it is that you are giving attention to.
Right.
And and
Right.
I think that at least with my daughter, of course, she was raised by me, so she could not escape the history lessons and the conspiracy theories and all of that.
She's blessed. She's blessed to have you as her mama.
I hope so. I hope so. But her attitude is really that, I'm not going to participate in something that isn't serving me. And she encourages other people to think that same way.
Good.
Stop paying attention to things that are harmful to you or cause you stress and worry. Start paying attention to
Right.
things that are going to bring value into your life. And I
Right.
think
Right.
that these kids, that's something that my generation, maybe your generation, we had to learn later in life, as we were kind of traumatized over and over again until finally we just distrust the system beyond belief.
Right.
But these kids, they're kind of already woke to it. They kind of already know, like, oh, all of this is an illusion, and the only thing that's real is what I have in my own life.
Right.
um I
Right.
think that because they know that, and because they're so young, they're going to have more time to do really amazing things with that type of mindset. So
Thank goodness.
yeah, no kidding. I'm excited to see
Yeah.
what, like, say,
Yes.
what type of entrepreneurs the next 10 years is going to bring.
Yes. And especially an entrepreneur that has entrepreneurial parents, or mentors or uncles or aunts or whatever around them. That second, third generation of that's really key to keep that, because it's a mindset, it's a creativity.
Mhm.
To be able to to have ideas, to recognize you have ideas, then to be able to recognize opportunities. That helps you understand that fear and doubt can just go, out the window, because once you can recognize the opportunity and you can develop an action step, you can go do whatever you want to do. And that's the way we're designed. That's the
Yes.
way we're designed,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
it's being true to human nature to come up with
Yeah.
your to use your own creativity to create.
Yes.
And it's in, I think it's in human nature to, maybe subconsciously, but to try to create
I
in a
think
way
so
that's
too.
beneficial, you
Right,
know?
right. Of course, yeah. We're taught fear. We're taught hatred. We're all the we're not born with that. It's
Mhm.
all shown to us in bad examples of people who didn't get it. So, yes, we're naturally not like that at all. Everybody's not. I mean, look at a baby.
Mhm.
Look at them.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, and to people who look at what they perceive to be the other side, or the controllers, or people that they think are nefarious, just remember, like, those people were babies. That's someone's baby. They were, they got to where they are doing the awful things that they're doing by way of their own life experience,
right,
but they were all
right,
babies. So that's just my little piece
right,
on that.
right.
Let's try to have grace for other people, even if
Absolutely.
even if
Absolutely.
we want to throw them in jail.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
yes. Here, here, here. Cheers, cheers. Clink, clink.
Right. I think we should probably wrap it up, but is there anything that you want to promote, or anything that you want to share before we end this conversation with the listeners?
I have a website they could go to, and it goes into a little bit more detail about what I do. It's certainlyneededresources.com.
Certainlyneededresources.com. Okay.
Correct.
What are they going to find on your website?
They're going to find a little bio about me down towards the bottom of some of the different life events that I've went through that helped me bring to the table a vast array of knowledge.
Mhm.
And then they're also going to find out, if they would like to, we can set up a time to chat.
I
There's
was going
there's
to
a way they
say,
can get on my calendar.
yeah, it's beautiful. You guys can just click the button. And I think that I'm actually going to put in a little visual of your website here. You can click the button and get on Deb's calendar, and she can help you get moving. If you're looking to make a change, she can help you figure out how it is that you are going to do that authentically for yourself. So,
Great word, authentic, because I'm into integrity. I'm into, being authentic, and I'm just really into having a conversation and helping people be happy, whatever that means, right? To be fulfilled, to find their seed of, and when we had first started this out, I do believe everyone has something inside of them that only they can do, like no other person. And
mhm.
once you find what that is, then you're just going to need a plan to, make it blossom. And that's what I do. I help those dreams and ideas blossom into something that's beautiful.
Oh, you're beautiful. Thank you for coming to talk to me.
Thank you. You're beautiful. Thanks for asking. I
Oh,
love what you do for the world. I love
thank
what
you.
you do for the world.
Thank you. Well, it's going to be actually put into action soon, and I'm very, very, very excited about it. So,
Great. That's
and
great.
and
That's
you've
great.
helped me with that too. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.